Mandating CB radio in British and Northern Irish registered motor vehicles. Post-Brexit follow-up video regarding the proposal to Her Majesty's Government by Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November Uniform or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and PMR 446.
Hello, it's Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November Uniform or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and PMR 446. I'll just turn my ECU down a bit, just so that's not going off in the background. So there we go. Right, so this video is the post-Brexit follow-up to the mandating CB radio in pretty much every motor vehicle that uses the roads in the United Kingdom. My proposal obviously to Her Majesty's Government. Obviously with Brexit going on, I've not really wanted to put that proposal directly to them because they've got Brexit to sort out first. With that which have now happened, by the time this video goes live, I'm filming this before Brexit's happened, by the way, because it was just the easiest way to do it. So once the government have got through Brexit, we've left the European Union, obviously, then they could just start on doing all the other laws for this country independent of the European Union and obviously the rest of it. Which brings me obviously neatly to CBs. Now, without getting it caught, now you might recognise this one. In fact, you should recognise this one from the thumbnail in the previous video actually. I've not got the power for this turned on. I'm not planning on powering it up. This is the TTI TCB 550, one of the most basic CBs you can actually buy. And all it is just this radio, this little microphone, no buttons on the microphone apart from that one, and just a few buttons on the front, that's it. A radio that's ideal for the proposals because it's essentially got everything you need. 80 channels, at the very least you need the 40 UK, so it's got those and the CEPT channels. By the way, CEPT has nothing to do with the European Union, therefore we're not affected too much by that. CEPT is a completely different organisation independent of the EU, so they just mandate postal and telecommunications and obviously radio communications. That's as far as I'm aware. Pretty sure that's what CEPT do. So I've got another radio actually winging its way at the time of filming this. That video will already be live for that radio by the time this one goes live. Well, that's the plan anyway. That video is about the Thunderpole T3000. There's a couple of videos already about that, but that radio is actually also another ideal one for what's to be proposed because it can pretty much fit where you wouldn't normally get most CB radios because it's not anywhere near as deep as most CB radios. I'll be showing you that in that video, and I will put a link to that video into this video as soon as this video goes live. So if the link's not there already, then that means I haven't put it in yet. So with Brexit done, what does that mean? Well, basically it means the UK is free to make up its laws independent of the European Union. And one of those laws that I would like to see is it being made mandatory for all cars to be fitted with a CB radio because, well, in the last 24 hours to 48 hours of filming this, I've seen a lot of instances where a CB radio could actually be of a lot of use. I've seen people cut people up at roundabouts. I mean, I've seen a lot of traffic congestion, and I've seen people make some very questionable manoeuvres indeed. People pulling out of junctions, all that sort of thing. It can just be avoided because if the person that's about to pull out doesn't see you coming, you could basically pick up that microphone and just say, I'm coming around the corner, just watch out. Something to that effect. And then, because what I want really is to make it, well, part of the proposal is the requirement to monitor channel 19, which is by definition a mobile calling channel, although it's not treated as such. Although I have been trying to call on channel 19 because I've got the Grant 2 in the car at the moment, and I've got a temporary antenna on because I had to take the antenna off and give it back to its rightful owner because I was only loaning it. So I've put my orbiter back on there. I'm sure I've mentioned that in a previous video. I might not have done that, but I've got the Grant 2 down there. Actually, I did a previous video on that to check the tuning on it, and I also destroyed a pair of rather cheap snips. Tried to cut that antenna down, so there you go. But with the proposals, it will be pretty much required that the CB be fitted and checked for full function. Now, if you're not technically savvy enough to fit a CB into your car, then there's plenty of people out there that are, myself included, that can help you with that. I actually own the necessary test equipment to check for things like where your permanent 12 volt supply would be on your car, or if you're going to do a route I did with some of my amateur radio equipment, the permanent 12 volt on the stereo loom can be used, or the temporary on off through the ignition key can be used via a relay. So, but I used the latter of those two options by wiring a relay across the ground and the ignition switch to make sure my amateur radio gear isn't on all the time, so that could risk draining the battery. But you could just go straight to the battery without any of that, as long as there's fuses. Again, I'm technically savvy and I can test to make sure all the fuses are working, and also know how to get cables through rubber grommets in engine bays. It's a pain, but it can be done. I know how to do it. I don't know how to check the antenna, make sure it's tuned properly. So, if you don't know how to do any of that, then there's people out there that have been doing this hobby for long enough that do know. Amateur radio operators, they're usually good people to ask about this kind of thing. Some of them frown upon CB because, well, it's generally considered by some of them to be a bit, well, yeah. I won't go too much into that, it's a bit political. But myself, even though I've got an amateur radio licence, I still like to use a CB. I've been trying to call on 19 for the last couple of days because if you've been reading my Twitter, I spotted a blue Ford Fiesta, not sure what colour, Volkswagen Bora, and a pickup truck which I'm not sure the make and model of, that all had Orbiter Springer style antennas on them. And yet not a beep out of them. They've got the antennas, so they've obviously got the radios, so because you wouldn't put a CB antenna on a car just because, now would you? They obviously got the radios and they're obviously using them for something, but they just didn't respond, which means they might have just had the radios turned off, which defeats the point. Under these proposals, they'd have to have the radio turned on all the time monitoring channel 19, so maybe they've seen my video and thought, oh, let's just get CBs in our cars. Although, to be honest, they might not have seen the video, they might have done it prior to the video. So, with Brexit, this country is free to make up any laws it requires and wants, and, well, that way, CB radio hopefully can be mandated. If you still like the idea, which I still do, because I just cannot abide the fact that you just can't communicate with people, and also these are just no good when you're on the road, because you could drive from 1 minute being a spot where there's a full signal and the next minute the signal's gone. Mobile phone useless, does not work. Truck drivers already have CBs. Land Rover owners, a lot of them have CBs as well, primarily when they're actually doing off-roading and green laning stuff, but they do have a CB fitted. I happen to know for a fact there's a 1995 Land Rover Discovery in this area that looks like it's been modified slightly that actually does have a CB radio in it because it has the antenna. the antenna's on the centre of the roof. I know there's someone driving an old Series Land Rover, I think it's a Series 2, that actually just so happens to have a CB antenna on the roof. Well, that's actually on the back of the vehicle, because that's how they tend to be fitted to Land Rovers. I think I've seen a few Land Rovers with them fitted. I also have reason to believe that the Swaledale Mountain Rescue, which is literally a few minutes walk from where I am, I believe they use CB as well as their own systems. I think I might have mentioned that. So, whether you actually manage to get hold of them just by calling out is a different story. And it's not exactly... You don't have to hold the microphone all the time. When you're done with the microphone, you put it back in its holder. These all come with a little holder that either sticks on with sticky pads, which would make a mess when you actually try and pull them off, but you can get those off, or the worst option, although it doesn't matter so much if your car's really old, screwed into the dashboard. They're either plastic or metal, but they're there to just keep the microphone out of the way when you're not using it. So you could be just driving along, you're driving along like that, then somebody calls you, then yeah, you can still drive and talk. Yeah, the mobile phone rules just simply do not apply to these. So there you go. I'm probably going over exactly what I've already went over in the previous video. And the previous video ended up an hour long, so I'm just going to try not to go over that again. So if you want to see the previous video, I'm going to put a link to it in this anyway. There's the website. Link to that will be included in the description as well. I'm not sure how many hits I've got to it because I actually run it here at my home QTH off a Raspberry Pi, amongst a few other websites as well. And you're not limited to this in-car stuff either. Remember, you can also get these, although these have a range of about half a mile at best, because these antennas, they do actually come off. They're actually rubbish, but you can get a longer one. I believe Thunderpoles sell it. It's an Albrecht CL27, I think it's called. Yep, those handheld CBs are actually quite good. You can get those, but they're not really ideal for putting into a car permanently. That Intec H520 Plus does have a car kit with it, but it's not really ideal as a permanent solution because it can be easily removed. It can't actually be hardwired unless you modify the car kit, and then that's a bit of a pain because then you can't remove the car kit. It's alright for conversion for use for a motorcycle because it meets all the type approvals necessary for mobile radio use. It has this lovely big screen, so it's got the lovely big screen. It's got this button here, EM, puts it straight into channel 9, and then it puts it back to channel 19. It was already on channel 19 anyway. I can't remember how you clear the emergency on that. There we go. Basically has nice big chunky buttons, but obviously I think you could be able to operate through gloves. It's got an auto squelch as well. So that's actually kind of ideal for use as a motorcycle CB radio, although you can get some CB radios that actually have Bluetooth. But if you're using a CB radio on a motorcycle, you'd probably have to pull over anyway before you can change the channel, because you can't really ride a motorcycle with one hand unless you're a bit silly. I wouldn't advise doing that, don't do that. And it's much better than PMR 446 because the range is better with a decent antenna, because in built up areas you should be fine. I mean, if you're on a motorway, you've got a good line of sight anyway, but half a watt on UHF with a really small antenna, if there's anything in the way of that transmission, it isn't going to quite get there. These things operate in the 11 meter portion of the radio frequencies, 27 megahertz. So the antennas can be quite unwieldy, but you can compromise, and therefore it works well. So we're post Brexit. I know in a lot of European countries, a lot of people use CB anyway. The truckers use them, the off-roaders use them, plenty of hobbyists still using it. And well, unfortunately at the moment, the time of filming, and probably until I somehow manage to convince Mr. Johnson that this is a good idea, then idiots are just going to stay on channel 19 until that happens, because they can't be removed from channel 19 easily unless because what they've got to do is basically, also because I included the idea of testing these things once they're installed, the fees from that could go back to Ofcom, who could then more or less police the band a bit better and remove anyone who was abusing channel 9 and 19 from the band. It should just all work, but obviously I might have to even make personal representation to the government. But we'll see what they say. We'll see what happens. I mean, I want it to be able to work alongside the hobbyists. So basically, the mobile users that have to use a CB in a car, if they're on a long journey, it's quiet, they put a call out on the 19, then they can just go around, have a natter, problem solved. And I was holding them, I'm not sure. And it doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left-handed. You can hold the microphone in both hands, and you can still press that push to talk button. Right, so I'm not going to cover this too much, because we've already done it. We're post-Brexit. The ball is now in our court. European regulations should not apply now. We probably still have to transition, obviously, but during that transitional period, all this could be sorted out, and all the trade agreements and everything, which is a different matter entirely. But the laws, any EU laws at present, will probably be made into UK laws anyway. But this can also become law. This idea of this proposal to get CB radios mandated to be installed in every single car, van, truck, bus used on the roads, obviously with some exceptions, which I might have gone over already. So, still a good idea. I'm planning on keeping a permanently active CB setup in the car. That's what the Thunderbolt T3000 is going to be for, because, to be honest, the President Grant 2 on the passenger seat is not ideal. And that's what I've been using up until, well, at the moment it's what I'm using. It does work, it does transmit, it's just loose, and it's not going to end well if there's an accident. So I'm going to have to swap it for a smaller radio, and I'm going to keep the President Grant 2 for use for DXing. That's basically a good thing to be doing with it. So, President Grant 2 does meet the type approvals, by the way, so if you've got enough space in your car to put one of them, that's fine. It's discontinued now, as far as I'm aware, as is the premium model by the looks of it, from what I can gather. But it's got a nice size display on it, and you can just look at it at a glance and you'll be like, yeah. So, it's basically a case of we now try and get this into law. I like the idea. I'm sure plenty of people out there like the idea. I mean, it's nothing against the law regarding holding this microphone. Taxi drivers do it. I know for a fact that taxi drivers do it, because I've seen plenty of taxis that still have taxi band antennas on them. Some slightly bigger ones, which look like CB antennas, but I know for a fact they're not. But the taxis would be getting these anyway, because they'd have to if this comes to law. But you couldn't just simply pick this up and just ask for a taxi. It doesn't work like that. It's stuff in the taxi office. So, Yeah, and as I think I may have mentioned this already, at time of filming I have been calling out on channel 19 while I've been mobile. I've not had a peep on there. Nothing. It's a little bit of a shame, really. I mean, there's some areas where I do my job, where I drive and deliver food. I know that there's high amounts of noise, but that's something that Ofcom will have to deal with. That's outside of the remit of the hobbyists. The hobbyists can't just go around knocking on people's doors and telling them to unplug things. It's up to Ofcom to make sure that the interference is limited. So, although CB is currently non-interference, non-protected anyway, it can't cause interference, it's not protected from it. With revenue generated from testing CB sets installed in cars, then it would be a little. Then Ofcom may have the funds, therefore, to actually protect the band. So, right, Brexit's done. It's done, it's happened. And I'm happy, I wanted it to happen. And, you know, it happened. And now we can start working on something like this. This country can make up its own laws. There's no legal requirement for visitors to have these in their car, but that's optional, but it's recommended. I haven't actually put that into the proposals of the government, but I'd obviously have to sit down and talk to the government. So let's see. Oh. That's the network radio telling me it's running out of battery. I'll have to do something about that. This wouldn't be a viable option because as an alternative to the proposals, because it's based on mobile phone technology. It just would not work. Because it uses the same technology as a mobile phone and therefore same problems. So, and PMR 446 is limited to fixed antennas and short range. So CB was the only option available. Because there was nothing else. There are business bands out there, but and there's the simple light, I think it's called. But you have to. But that's a bit. They have to pay for a license for that. CB has been license free since 2006, so it was the most logical option. And the radios are relatively inexpensive for a very basic one, such as that. And there is a version of this now for sale with a USB port just about there. So no excuse not to have one, because you can charge your phone off it. Therefore, you've got your phone and you've got your CB. So even if we don't get this into law this year, then we could just keep working at it. But what I would like is more people to be putting these in their cars in the meantime, just in case, on the off chance that I manage to persuade the government and the rest of us obviously that are all thumbs up for this idea. So, right, I'm going to end it there because I'm just starting to waffle now. So it's Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform, or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres, or PMR 446. Or if you want to go proper old school with the old CB, you can just address me as the Red Squirrel, if you like. That's why my radio communications blog is called the Red Squirrel Radio Blog. And yeah, it's to do with the fact that I've got red hair and it's long and it's tied up in a bit of a bushy tail. Bit like a squirrel. Well, except it's actually on the back of the head. There we go. I like to just try and add a bit of humour into my videos. So the T3000 by Thunderpole. Yeah, I've got one of those winging its way to me. It's actually going to arrive tomorrow morning, which is on the time of filming, which would be the Friday, the morning before Brexit. And yeah, that video will be up before this one goes live, all being well. Depends on my situation with work, because it's everybody's payday on the 31st of January, and work is going to be absolutely manic. But that's good for me, because it means I'll get out and I'll be able to do a lot of work. So I will bid you 7 threes, and let's have this new era of being independent from the EU. Make us have a law, hopefully, that mandates that we all have these in our cars. Because, you know, this is a good idea. You're in contact. Right. 7-3s, and I'll catch you in the next one. And don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, the usual. And you can check out my other channels as well, my electronics channel, which is currently not had anything new on it for a while because at the moment I've got to do other things before I can start making any more content for that. And yeah, don't forget to check out the website, the link's in the description, and there's also a link to the original video there as well. So 7-3s for now.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to be notified of new videos as I upload them. 73s from Paul, Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform, or 26 Charlie Tango 730 on 11 metres and PMR 446.